What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another video. And today we're going to take a look at recent sales for CGC graded comics. Before we do that, I wanted to kind of give you an update. I'm sure most of you, if you collect graded comic books, I'm sure you're well aware of what's going on at CGC. CGC is kind of a mess right now. They have multiple scandals that they're dealing with right now. We've already talked about one of them. There was a reholder scandal where somebody was taking books, submitting them back to CGC for custom labels, swapping out the books with older labels or with the other books, lower grade books, and getting them reholdered by CGC. And CGC was obviously kind of delayed there on their reaction, but they did finally come out with their response. This is a little bit of an older article, but I wanted to touch on it because they did admit that, yes, this particular seller was reholdering comics with lower grade books. And so what they did was they put out a list of the affected books from this one particular buyer. More on that in a second, because there are other things in play right now at CGC. But they put together a list with the certification numbers of the books that they believe may be affected. And if you happen to have one of these, you need to send it into CGC to have it examined to see if it is indeed a swapped out book. And if it is, they're going to go through a process with the owner to try and come up with a financial payment to kind of make up for it. And the list is fairly lengthy. There's about 375 books that are affected. A lot of big name books, a lot of books that we've already covered, like ASM 300s, Hulk 340s, ASM 252, a lot of these Mark Jeweler inserts. I mean, there's just kind of a mess going on right now. And you can see some of these certification numbers are scratched out. That means that the owners of those books have submitted it to CGC for review, and so they're taking that off of the registry list. But, you know, if you happen to have any really big books that you've bought over the last, I'd say, couple of years, you might want to double check it. And it does bring up the idea that, hey, is there going to be opportunity for some of these big books that are not on the list, right? You want to double check those certification numbers if you happen to be buying any big books. But I think there should be some hesitation with buying any really big books right now, because CGC is probably going to update their cases. They're going to have to, I think, given the failures with this reholder scam. It's been proven that the cases are not tamper resistant enough, and they're going to have to add some sort of hollow foil label on the outside of the seal of, you know, the sonic welding for the cases, or completely redesign the case. So we'll see if that happens. But I would be a little hesitant right now to buy bigger books because the cases are probably going to get updated. That being said, I have bought some big books lately, so listen to what I say, not what I do, I guess. Here is the other scandal that's going on right now, and I got a pop-up. So this is over at Bleeding Fool. You can find it anywhere. It's all over YouTube as well, like Swaggle House and, you know, some of those other big name comic book YouTubers. But there were a set of ex-employees that were actually stealing customer submissions, swapping out the books, and then claiming these books as their own, grading their own books. And so they have filed lawsuit with, you know, in court against these ex-employees for a cease and desist order. You can read the actual lawsuit. But Paul Lesko over on Twitter is a good follow. He kind of covers litigation related to collectibles, and he was the one that kind of announced this and showed that what's going on. But there is a big lawsuit right now against two ex-CGC employees that have converted customers' property into their own, and you know, it's just an absolute mess right now. And CGC has got multiple scandals that are going on right now. CGC leveled accusations against husband and wife that they were involved in a scheme to steal and sell customer-submitted comic books. They allegedly duplicated CGC labels from high-value comics to falsely enhance less valuable ones. And the value of the book the books that they did this for is in the millions. So we're talking big, big numbers. So CGC has got a lot of house cleaning to do, between the outside scandal, the reholder scandal that we've already talked about on the channel, and now we've got ex-employees doing it. So you can go to YouTube and check it out, or you can go to these two articles. I do think this is a good one to save into your bookmarks. So if you are a high-value comic book collector, because this list shows the certification numbers as well as the ones that are scratched out and have been removed from the CGC census and have already been kind of verified or dealt with by CGC. But there's a lot of them still out there, and I'm sure there's some collectors that don't follow YouTube. They're rich people. They don't have time to watch YouTube videos. They don't care about that stuff. But they probably do have some books in their collection. ASM 194. I read that ASM 194, which is the first appearance of Black Cat, it's something like 15% of the 9.8s on the entire census for ASM 194 fall underneath this umbrella from this one particular reholder scandal guy. So it's crazy how much it's going to probably affect the overall census. When you got 15% of all 9.8s on the census for ASM 194 being kind of implicated in this scheme, it's crazy to think about. So make sure that if you're buying any big books that you double check it against this list of books in the CGC article. And again, I'll put both of these articles in the video description. All right, that's enough about CGC's problems. I do want to show some big books, and I want to talk about books that I think are ones to avoid and ones that I think are worth taking a look at current price levels. Predator #1 kind of falls in the meh. I don't think it really is overpriced or underpriced right now. Right now, this one, this is Predator #1, obviously the first appearance of Predator in comics. This one sold for $410. I think it's a pretty good time right now to pick this one up. It's a lower print Dark Horse book from 1989. This one sold in an auction for $410. This one had been kind of trading $500 to $550. And they did just announce that Predator, they are doing another Predator movie. So, you know, I think it's either a Predator movie or Predator versus Aliens movie. I don't know. Every once in a while, they keep coming out with these Predator movies, and some of them are good, some of them suck, but I just think either way, Predator is going to be around for a while, and to me, it's an epic cover. I mean, you know, I grew up loving Predator. I still love Predator, so that's why I bought it. I don't particularly care what the franchise does from here. But, you know, given that it was at $500 to $550, this one just sold in an auction for $410. Probably not a bad time to pick that one up. Daredevil is probably one that or Daredevil number 181 specifically, is probably one you maybe want to hold off on. There are rumors that Elektra is going to show up in the new Deadpool 3 movie, and more on the new Deadpool 3 movie in a little while. But this is the death of Elektra, so I could see potentially this book having some heat after we just saw the new trailer for Deadpool 3 during the Super Bowl. And if you haven't seen that one, you need to go watch it. It's pretty funny. It's a pretty funny trailer. The new Deadpool movie, I think, is going to be an absolute massive hit at the box office. It's going to be kind of a return to form for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They're incorporating Deadpool as well as Wolverine into the MCU, and I think that you're going to see some cameos from other secondary Marvel characters like Elektra potentially. This one sold. This was a newsstand though, and it sold for $215. It did have a bad overwrap, and so I was watching it because like, ooh, I'd really like that book, but it had a bad enough overwrap onto the back that I decided to stay away from it. But this was the harder to find newsstand, and it's a great cover. It's one I'd like to have, and it was only $215, but I think if I'm going to get it, I'm going to wait and get one that with a little bit better wrap to it. But that one was, you know, a pretty good deal. But I do think that anything related to Elektra, you might want to hold off on because there's a lot of rumors that she might show up. Speaking of Deadpool, all right, here we go. So we got, I think now is a bad time to pick up New Mutants 98. This was the direct edition that sold in an auction. It ended on Monday, February 12th. So this one ended right after the new trailer dropped. It sold for $12.64. And this one has been selling pretty regularly around $1,100 or $1,200. So it's a little bit higher than you expect. But this New Mutants 98 in a direct edition, there are 1,000 plus, maybe 2,000 plus of this in a 9.8 on the census. So I think that it's easy enough to find that you can probably wait until after Deadpool 3 comes and goes and it kind of settles back down again. I could see this book after Deadpool 3 going for under $1,000. There's just so many of them on the census. The newsstand is one that really intrigues me right now, but not right now. There's just too much action going on because of that new trailer, and it looked really good. I mean, the new movie looks really good in my opinion. So I think Deadpool related and Wolverine related books are going to be up for a while. We've got Hulk 340. This one is the first or second fight between Wolverine and Hulk. There's a lot of rumors that maybe Hulk makes an appearance in this movie. Who knows? I think it's less likely. I love this book, though. I just picked up another direct edition in a 9/8 on Comic Link last month. This one sold for $11.52, which is even higher than what I paid for mine. I don't think that's a terrible price, though. I've seen them going for like $1,200 to $1,250. So if you can get it around $1,100 or under, I don't think it's a terrible buy. There's a lot of these on the census as well. It's just a great book. I think that long term you're going to be fine on this book, whether you pay $1,000, $1,100, or $1,200. I think this book is going to be just fine long term. It's kind of a timeless, good blue chip book to get. A Todd McFarlane book that's always going to be in demand. A newsstand's a different story. I'm still looking for a newsstand. I don't care when that book comes out. If I find a really clean newsstand, 340, I'm going to go after it. It's going to be expensive, but I am going to go after it. That's kind of my number one book that I want for this year. That's still on my list. So, but it's going to be really expensive. It's probably $3,000 plus. Versus the direct, which is $1,100 to $1,150 right now. But I don't think it's a terrible time to get it, but I would probably wait because you can. This book comes up very regularly. It's not hard to find, and I think that you'll be able to find it once the heat for Deadpool 3 dies down. Wolverine Limited Series #1 is another book that I would not pay this price. This one's sold in a buy it now for $735. That's too high. You can pick this book up for $550, I think, pretty easily. This is another book that's really easy to find in a direct edition on the census. Pretty timeless Frank Miller cover, but don't pay $735 for it. Pay $550 to maybe $600 at the top end. That's a more realistic number in the current environment. Wolverine #8 is another kind of secondary key. It's not really a big key, but it's just a timeless cover. And I wouldn't pay $315 for it, although that's not terrible. I think you can pick this one up sub $300 pretty easily if you're patient. But that's a great cover with Wolverine as Patch. And the reason this one has heat is because there was a shot of Wolverine wearing the white tuxedo in the Deadpool 3 trailer. So this book is definitely going to see some heat. So be careful overpaying for it right now. Everyone kind of jumps on bandwagons. There's another book that was shown briefly. It was like a Secret Wars #5 in the desert next to Deadpool's crumpled body. Don't buy that garbage. Don't buy. I mean, those books are 99-cent books, and now all of a sudden they're just on fire. Those are not key books. I would pick up some of these other books that I think make a lot more sense, like Wolverine Limited Series 1, Hulk 340, even this Wolverine 8. I think these are good books that have long-term buy and hold potential, but just don't buy them right now, okay? Because Deadpool is on fire. Here's another book. It's already been proven that Sabretooth is going to make an appearance in the new Deadpool 3 movie because it was shown all over Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, of Logan holding Sabretooth's severed head. So this is Sabretooth's first appearance in the Wolverine comic book series. And it's not the greatest book. It shows Wolverine kind of being strangled by Sabretooth, but it is a nice secondary key. This one sold for $150. Not a terrible time to buy it. I mean, that's a pretty low risk book. I would say if you're going to get it, I would probably try to get the newsstand. You can find the newsstand pretty regularly for about $250 or so would be my target. Maybe $300 on the outside. So I can see any Sabretooth related books having a little bit of heat, but it's already shown he's going to die in the new Deadpool. So to me, that's kind of a secondary want for me. But it's a great book. It's always one I've liked. It's a Bill Sienkiewicz, I think it's how you pronounce his name, cover. I always like his cover art. It's kind of a really nice a really nice artist that I've always liked a lot. So next up is Amazing Spider-Man 210, the first appearance of Madam Web. Someone paid, for the newsstand, someone paid $17.50. Don't pay that. That's crazy. The new Madam Web movie, I was really excited about it until I saw the trailer. It might even already have come and gone for all I know. But the new trailer, I was like, yeah, this movie's going to suck. I'm not even going to bother seeing it. So I think this book is going to come way back down. This book was not an expensive book until the new Madam Web movie was announced and made and the trailers dropped. So I think this book is going to come back down to earth and will be very cheap again, just based on how the movie looks. It doesn't look very good, unfortunately. It's still got Sydney Sweeney in it, so I'm going to watch it probably on streaming, but just to watch her. But this is a book that I think will come back down to earth, and even in a newsstand, you know, $17.50 is crazy. I bet in a year and a half this book is going to be like a third of this price. So I would try to stay away from this one right now. On to some Star Wars books. I personally think that Star Wars books are a good time to buy them. Nobody cares about Star Wars books right now. Prices are flat. Heir to the Empire #1 in a direct edition sold for $6.50. I just bought my newsstand edition of this book because I'm a firm believer that this book has a good buy and hold potential long term, whether you get the direct or the newsstand. These are lower printed Dark Horse books. We talk about that all the time. They came out in 1995, which was kind of like the dead period for Star Wars. So I think that, you know, the first appearance of Grand Admiral Thrawn, you know, maybe people just don't care, but I think that at $6.50, that's a price I'd pay all day long. I think you can get it cheaper though. I mean, I think, you know, I've seen them in auctions go in sub $600. So if you don't want to be patient, then $6.50 is fine. Don't pay above that. But I think if you wait for an auction, you'll be able to get this for under $600. Next up, this was a good deal. I almost put a bid in. I almost did. This is the Phantom Menace #3. This is kind of the first cover appearance of Darth Maul. This is the painted cover, or, you know, the kind of the close-up cover of Darth Maul. What an awesome cover. This one for the longest time was like $300. This one sold in an auction for $152.50. It was going on right during the Super Bowl, so I got kind of distracted, and I decided that the photos were not good enough to really tell how good the book it was in terms of condition. But that's a great deal at $152.50. I just, you know, it was kind of, I'm busy. I want to watch the game. So, but if you can get it for $152.50, that's a good buy. These were like $200-ish after being as high as $300. Now $152.50 is kind of the new low that I've seen for this book. But that's just an awesome cover. I mean, I think this one has good timeless appeal to it. Next up, speaking of Darth Maul, I want to show you this book. This is a recent book that just came out in February this month. This is Star Wars #41. And John Tyler Christopher came out with 2 negative space variants for this book, and they are on fire. They are probably the 2 best negative space variants that he's released. This is the Darth Maul, and this one sold for $120. You know, they've been selling $100 to $120 very consistently. Raw copies I have seen selling as high as $50. So to get it for $100, it's probably not terrible. I love this cover. This is probably my favorite John Tyler Christopher negative space variant ever. I mean, and there's been a bunch of them. There's been a bunch of good ones. There's been Luke, Mando, Grogu, Yoda. I mean, Emperor Palpatine, Anakin Skywalker. But this to me is the best. The shininess on Maul. I mean, his eyes and his face are just unbelievable. This is absolute fire. I love this book. I kind of want it, but I'm trying to not buy as many kind of books right now. So, but this is a great book, and it's selling like hotcakes. It's really, really selling a lot. So I would look at it if you're into these negative space variants. Is it gonna hold its value long term? I have no idea. But to me, he knocked it out of the park with this one, as well as the other one that came out for Star Wars 41, which was Asajj Ventress. This cover is unbelievable. I mean, it is just great. This one goes a little bit cheaper, like $80 or so. The Maul goes for $100 to $120. So if you're into them, these are 2 of the best that he's released in a long time. So that's for Star Wars 41, February this month. the John Tyler Christopher action figure, or not action figure variant, but the negative space variant. They're just unbelievable books. The Mall takes the cake. I mean, that is just an awesome book. Next up, we've got the newsstand edition of Star Wars 68, the first appearance of the planet Mandalore, first appearance of Mandalorians in general. This was the newsstand. It sold for $1,600. I had it on my watch list because I was really tempted. This one, for the longest time, during the height of the market, was more like $2,500, $3,000 even. And so I was tempted on it, but a buddy of mine reached out and said, I'm thinking about buying it. I was like, go for it, man. I don't want to spend that kind of money right now. So a buddy of mine did get it, and it's a beauty and pretty much fair market value. I mean, I've seen them go for cheaper, but not much cheaper. I've seen maybe in an auction you get it a little bit cheaper, but this was a really clean copy, perfectly centered. And if you can get a perfectly centered book for that price, that's probably about market, because there's not many of them on the census in a newsstand. So great book. Next up was the newsstand of Star Wars 42, and I was watching this hoping that it wouldn't sell and then eventually go to auction. It was listed for $2,000. It did sell at $2,000. So that's actually up a little bit. They've been selling kind of $1,500 to $1,600-ish. In all fairness, this was perfectly centered with no scratch going through the Star Wars logo. That's one thing to look out for the Star Wars number 42, first appearance of Boba Fett. There's a manufacturer's defect that goes right through the yellow on the Star Wars logo, and so it really detracts from the aesthetic appeal from it, and they tend to go for a lot cheaper, like $500 cheaper than this book. So $19.95 was the buy it now. It did sell. I really wanted it, but it's kind of a secondary want for me. I don't really need this book. I've got it in a direct edition already. But that was a perfect copy. I mean, it was absolutely flawless. So I can understand paying up for it. Here's one I did bid on and I lost. This is Return of the Jedi #1, signed by Mark Hamill. And there's only 23 signature series Return of the Jedi #1s across all signatures, not just Mark Hamill. I would wager that there's less than 5 of these on the census signed by Mark Hamill, if not less than that. I mean, there's no way to really break it up unless you go through each specific book on Go Collect. I tried for a little while and I got so bored. I was like, I don't care. So this was at auction last night as of the making of this video. It sold for $815. I made a really strong bid on it. I think I bid $775 because I just wanted it. I'm not saying it's really necessary or even worth $775, but to have Mark Hamill's signature on this book would have been pretty awesome. But I did lose. I think I finished 3rd or 4th. There was two or three other bids that went higher than mine. So that one did sell for $815. Mark Hamill's signature is expensive because he doesn't do a lot of signatures. And, usually in buy it now situations, they're a lot of money, like $1,500 in CGC 9.8 yellow label signature series. So awesome book, freshly graded, perfect centering, perfect colors. It was just kind of the perfect book. And I'm kind of glad now that I didn't win it, because there's a lot better books that I've been targeting that I have my eye on Heritage as well as on some other websites. So, it would have been nice to have, yes. Would it have been an overpay at $775? Probably, but it was a pretty awesome book. The signature was perfectly placed in silver right on Luke Skywalker. And it looked awesome. So I just fell in love with it, but I did not win it. So that's the way it goes sometimes, but it did sell at $815. Next up is the last issue in the original Marvel run in a newsstand. This is Star Wars number 107 in a newsstand edition. That sold for $900 in a buy it now situation. Very low print run book because it was at the very end of the run. I don't necessarily love the cover. It's kind of a goofy cover art, if you ask me. You got rabbits. You got Luke looking like, I don't know, like a Saturday morning, infomercial cartoon. I don't know. It just didn't look great. I don't love the card art or the cover art on it, but it is a low print run book in a newsstand, so I can understand the appeal. Even look at Chewbacca. I mean, Chewbacca looks like a Care Bear letting his hair. He looks like a headbanger Care Bear. It does not look like Chewbacca. Lando looks like he is, on the wacky tobacco. I mean, I don't know what's going on with the art on that one. It's not my favorite, but it's still a low print run book, and it is a harder to find newsstand. So I can understand why some people want it. Jason, I'm talking to you, buddy. But it did sell at $900. Transformers #1. This one is holding its value really well despite a down market. So I don't know. I've seen it go for less. This was a buy it now, in all fairness. I think in an auction, it goes for a lot less. It goes like $1,200, $1,300 maybe. But I've seen even some auctions go for close to $1,500. So for whatever reason, Transformers #1 has really held its value. In all fairness, it's a very tough 9.8. The 9.8 ratio for this book is a lot lower than the next book I'm going to show you. But I wanted to cover all of the 1980s toy lines in this video. We talked about Star Wars, Transformers 1, $1,500 it did sell for. It was recently graded and perfectly centered, really great colors. I've got this book and I paid almost the exact same price 6 months ago. So it's held up really well in a down market. G.I. Joe #1 is a book that I would consider right now. It's really come back down to earth. I think I paid $850 for mine. Now they're going for a lot lower. This one sold in an auction for $680. This one also sold in an auction for $680. Both of those were freshly graded and perfect centering. So $680 is the target price for G.I. Joe #1. This one sold in a buy it now situation for $900. So don't pay $900 for it. That's too high. I mean, that's more than what I paid for it 6 months ago. And the market is softer than it was 6 months ago. So be patient, wait for an auction. $680 is a good price target to aim for. I think that's a good buy at $680. And it's just an awesome book. I mean, they're going to do something with G.I. Joe again eventually. The last Transformers movie hinted at G.I. Joe coming back for a crossover movie. So, if you want it, now's a good time, I think, to get it in a direct edition. The newsstand, you're probably going to be talking double that price. At least $1,200 or $1,300 is my guess for a newsstand. A little bit harder to find that one. Next up, we've got DC Comics Presents #26, first appearance of the new Teen Titans. This is kind of a book that I'm kind of wishy-washy on. I haven't decided. I do love the cover, but it's a little bit busy, I guess. It's just a little bit too much going on on the cover, but it's the first appearance of a lot of the major new Teen Titans. This one, it was the direct edition and sold for $970. I think you can get it cheaper if you're a little patient. You can probably get that one I'd say $850 would be a good price target to aim for. But a newsstand goes for $1,100, $1,200. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I might be misremembering, but I feel like I saw one sell for $1,100 or $1,200. I should have looked it up before I started the video. So don't quote me on that price. But the newsstand, the direct edition, did sell for $970. I think that's a little high. I would probably aim a little bit lower. Infinity Gauntlet #1 in a direct edition as well as a newsstand. I got 2 data points for you. This is a book that, probably nothing ever happens with the Infinity Gauntlet in terms of new movies, but I like this book a lot, and this one was the direct edition, sold for $170. The newsstand sold in an auction for $383. So that's a great book. To me, if I'm going to get it, I'm going to get the newsstand. It's a little bit harder to find that one. And then finally, I've got Legends of Zelda #1 in a direct edition, I believe. It might be a newsstand. Is it a newsstand? I can't tell. It might be a newsstand edition. I don't know. No, it is. I think it is a direct edition because it just has a different UPC number versus the one that's labeled newsstand. Because I did see one that was labeled newsstand edition on Facebook for sale. It was for sale for $1,100. This one sold for $1,005. So I don't know. Maybe this one just missed the newsstand. I don't know if it has a different box art there in the lower corner, or if this is the newsstand and it just missed it on the label, because it is a fresh label. It was just graded, because you can tell by the certification number, but it doesn't say newsstand edition. So I might have to go back and check that. But there was a newsstand 9.8 with white pages for sale on Facebook for $1,100, and this one sold for $1,005. So take that for what you will. But I did just watch the new Super Mario Brothers movie. It was really good. It was really funny. And they just announced they are going to be doing a Zelda movie, so hopefully that's as good as the Mario Brothers movie. That's on streaming right now, so if you haven't watched it, it's pretty good. There's a lot of throwbacks for those of us who grew up in the 80s. Anyway, just some recent data points. I wanted to update you on that CGC scandals, plural. They're kind of a mess right now, and tread carefully with bigger books, because I would expect a new case to come out sometime in the next 6 to 9 months. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave a like, and I'll be back soon.